Open wide, because it's time for your weekly dose of running news. Welcome back to the channel. Although if it's your first time here, where have you been? Help the channel out by hitting that subscribe button and also clicking the bell down below for notifications of when I roll the new videos out for you. You can also give this video a thumbs up, like, and share it with your running buddies if you would be so kind. Thanking you. Running news today, I've got one big story and a couple of smaller ones, so let's get straight to it. Story 1. We've had a gazillion videos on the new ASICS METASPEED Plus series. ASICS are still going with that stride versus cadence vibe that they had with the original version of the METASPEED Sky and Edge. This time though, we've got a Sky Plus and an Edge Plus. Not entirely sure why they've gone with the Plus rather than a 2. There does seem to be a Magic Speed 2, so I'm not sure why they've gone with one and not the other. If you have a suggestion as to why that is, let me know in the comments. I did test the METASPEED Sky last year and enjoyed the shoe, though I did find durability to be a little bit of a concern with that midsole material. Changes to the upper include a suede tongue, along with the highly fashionable perforated laces that we've seen on lots of race shoes, including the Alphafly. Obviously more foam here in the new models, ASICS maxing out both of the heel stacks to 39mm. Bizarrely though, there's only a 4% foam increase in the Sky Plus, though a much more generous Ferrero Rocher style 16% in the Edge Plus. The drops stay the same from the original versions of the METASPEED series. You got about 5mm in the Sky and 8mm in the Edge. Those are obviously the sizes for a US 9, so they're going to be much bigger in my US 12 or UK 11. Aside from the addition of that extra foam, it really does seem that the plate position and the angles have changed more than anything. Almost feels like the Edge should have been an Edge 2 with all that extra foam there and the slightly different plate position. They've just kind of maxed out this Sky, so yeah, it's an odd one with the naming convention. Makes you wonder whether this Sky Plus is going to be all that different in terms of the underfoot experience. Thinking about the changes to these two shoes, it does make me feel that ASICS have lined the METASPEED Sky Plus up as like an Alphafly alternative with that lower drop, and then something that's a little bit more like the Vaporfly Next Percent in the METASPEED Edge Plus. Obviously that Edge Plus has a whole bunch more foam underfoot, though the plate seems to be much closer to the floor in the forefoot. I'm still a little perplexed as to the whole stride and cadence thing here. Do some runners really increase the stride length and not increase the cadence? I just can't see how that would work. If you're going to be running faster, clearly you're going to not just increase your stride length, you're going to increase your cadence quite a lot as well. How do you know which one you are as well? Is there some sort of formula to work it out? Which of the shoes are going to benefit you? You can't really make a mistake. I mean, they cost 225 Earth credits here in the UK. Well, that's what the current models do anyway. It's a bit of a gamble there to get the wrong shoe for the wrong runner. One area I'm surprised to see that there's a more minimal change in is the rubber on the outsole of the shoe. No major improvements there or stretching of that rubber back into the rear of the shoe. That's where I saw the most tarnish of that exposed midsole material. I found that the Flight Foam Turbo material doesn't really like getting wet. As soon as you get it wet and anything gets into that foam, it's curtains. Seems to crumble and wear away there. It just sort of tears away. A bit like ham. They have reduced the rubber in the forefoot to midfoot section, kind of pulled it back towards the forefoot, probably to save a little bit of weight there. I'm not sure you needed all of the rubber that was there in the METASPEED Sky original. All of the changes here though make these shoes much closer to some of the maxed out counterparts from the ASICS competitors. These bring the shoes in line with stuff like the Adios Pro 2 and the Vaporfly Next Percent and Alphafly Next Percent. It does feel a little bit to me with all these race shoes with that maxed out 39 to 40mm cushion in the heel that we've reached that point with mobile phones, haven't we? Where all phones are kind of the same. You've almost got like an ISO phone, haven't you? iPhone, Samsung phones, they kind of all do exactly the same thing and all the interfaces look very similar. It's like everybody's got this sort of cookie cutter design and they're just utilizing it to the same extent. Though everything we ever read suggests that the foam is the key to all of the improvements you get from these shoes. Either way, I'll be really happy to test out the METASPEED Sky Plus or the METASPEED Edge Plus, depending on which one supposedly should work better for me. I'd suggest I may be a stride runner, but I could be proved wrong. If anyone knows how I can figure it out, Tell me in the comments. Story 2. Another really cool study here from Exeter University about shoe foam and running economy. So this study got runners to undertake efforts on a treadmill that was set to a downhill elevation. They were basically aiming to elicit that sort of muscle damage that you might get if you were doing some sort of downhill descent, perhaps during a race or something, at a high speed. They did this treadmill test after the runners had done a moderate effort 48 hours before. The runners had a shoe assigned to them for these 2 test runs. That was like a randomized kind of selection, and the results were very interesting. Basically, the more foam underfoot, the better the performance. There was less oxygen intake as well if you had more foam underfoot, basically faster running at a lower VO2 max level. They also recorded less muscle damage in the runners that wore the highly cushioned shoes against the control shoe. I'm not entirely sure what the control shoe was, but I suggest it's probably a unplated, just standard EVA model maybe. So using those very cushioned, soft foam shoes could actually help to reduce some of that muscle fatigue. So from a recovery perspective, maybe if you're implementing them into your training, you could be onto a winner. As I say, the study mentioned nothing as to whether these shoes were plated or not, but nevertheless, more evidence to suggest it's less about the plate, more about the foam that's used within the shoes. I always think the plate's a little bit more of a stabilizer, sometimes a bit of a red herring. I do remember that initial study, it was from back in 2017 or 18 or whatever it was, did suggest that the plate only perhaps contributed about a 1% improvement. I think it was quite hard for them to tell back then. There weren't that many highly cushioned plated shoes. I still stand by my suggestion that the foam is the big difference between these and other models. Very interesting nonetheless. Story 3 is our last one for today. Gotta keep it nice and concise, guys, and your time is very precious. Nike and Luka Doncic recently unveiled a new Jordan brand shoe, the Luka 1, which if you follow running shoe technology will be of interest due to the frequent crossover between basketball shoe technology and running shoe tech. The shoe features a new foam called Formula 23, which Nike suggests could be one of the most sustainable performance foams. Interesting, we don't often hear that, do we? Often it's the most energy returning foam we've ever seen, but this time they're saying it's more sustainable. The other innovation is the ISO plate, which appears to be a frame that helps the foot stay secure in the shoe's upper and footbed. Now, I'm not sure the ISO plates may be going to be something we see on a typical running shoe, certainly a road running shoe, but what happened if they implemented it into a trail shoe? Is that something we might see in future Nike trail shoes that are going to be released later this year? The foam's apparently super lightweight and very responsive, as you would expect Nike to say. But maybe the injected foam here could be some type of future React replacement. Perhaps some of this tech that Nike have implemented into the shoe will help athletes who are perhaps undertaking more multi-directional movements. As I say, maybe trail shoes could be the answer here. From a stabilizing perspective, I could see that being a real boon. It'll be very interesting to see if this foam and the tech does start to filter through into some of the running shoes that we see from Nike over the next year or so. Pretty much every time there's some type of basketball shoe tech, it always gets pushed through to the running world somewhere. I think these look pretty sweet as well. I really like that splatter print sort of around the edge of the midsole there. It really is wonderful. That's all the running news for this week. Thanks for tuning in. If you have heard an interesting story, let me know in the comments down below. Musical interlude time. One of my favourite albums ever has to be Midnight Vultures from Beck. Came out in 1999, this one. I remember I had a little bit of anxiety towards the end of the year about the Millennium Bug. Do you remember that? Fortunately, everything was okay and, you know, we didn't get wiped out. It's all good. I really love Nicotine and Gravy. It has this really sleazy sort of vibe about it. Some really funky bass in there. It's got these kind of very sustained piano notes in there that create this weird atmosphere. Don't know what it is about it, I just really like the tune. I really like the jaunty guitar riffs on Mixed Business, and there's some great cowbell as well. Who doesn't like cowbell on a track? If someone doesn't like cowbell, don't trust him. Beck experiments with some voice-changing effects.
On the track Get Real Paid.
Again, it's a little bit disturbing, but that's what this album's all about. I mean, there's a picture of Beck on the front wearing this weird mask. With sort of laser beams flying out of certain places. Kind of weird. I love the really distorted guitar tones on the Pressure Zone. appear to be sounds of knives and stuff in there as well. It's really weird. Everything about this album's very stylized. It does feel like all the tracks kind of fit in together. I do remember picking it up and being very excited about this one, and it's always been an album that I go back to time and time again. Go and check it out, guys. Midnight Vultures by Beck. Just be warned, it's a little bit of a strange listen. Okie dokie, it's time for me to say goodbye. Tinkle the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications when we roll out the new shoe stuff for you. You can also give this video a thumbs up, like, and share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you